What's going on, Niner fam? It is Peter Lucas. This is the Niner Fanatic Podcast. It's been a long time. I know I promised you a shows months ago, but I'm back. 49ers are back, more importantly. Really great win by the 49ers over this Sunday. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, was it a great win? They barely won. There were so many mistakes. It's week one, division matchup. It was a necessary win. I think it's more important to say that it was a necessary win. But before we get into it, we got a lot to talk about in this game. And I mean, there's just been so many things that I've been wanting to talk about, but haven't had the chance to go live. So I'm here now. You're here. Let's get on with it. And before we get into it, we gotta hit the song. And once again, it is Peter Lucas. This is the Niner Fanatic Podcast. Make sure that you give it a like. Make sure that you give it a subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell so you get the notifications for when I go live. And I'm going to be seeing you guys a lot more often. I'm back. A lot of things have gotten more under control. Uh, I'm going to at least have time to do some more shows and see you guys more often. But the most important thing that we've got to talk about today is this 49er victory against the hated divisional rival Seahawks. And yeah, it was a great win. I mean, obviously, it was there was a lot of sloppiness going on. And we've got a list of things that we've got to talk about. But it's the most important thing is they got the win. Um, 49er fans got bragging rights for a whole week. If you've been in the spaces, you know what it is, and it's unbearable when you're losing. So I'm just thankful that we have a whole week to talk to talk on these spaces, and for yeah, the 49ers just to have a good name in these streets. But with that being said, I want to start. I just want to start with my five take main takeaways for this game, and because a lot was made coming into the game about we didn't know what we were going to see. Let's just be real. We did not know what we were going to see. There was so much roster turnover and so much youth injected into this team. What was it going to look like? You got Robert Sala coming back. What was that going to look like? Was he going to make that big of a difference? And we're going to get into that later. But was that going to make a difference? How does Kyle pivot off of last season because the offense just as much as they were getting yards, they weren't scoring in the red zone. What does Moody look like? Everybody hates Moody, and there were just so many questions coming into the season. So when you looked at this, there was just so much uncertainty. 49er fans didn't know what to think. We didn't even know if we were going to be able to talk mess. So but the game started Sunday, and it was exactly all of that rolled into one because we didn't know what was going on until the end of the game, and then we ended up just winning the game. But my main five takeaways, I want to start with those, and because we're going to get into them a little bit in depth as we go at after I give you my five takeaways. But there was just so much going on in this game that I felt like, eh, and so much unexplained that we're just gonna start with the takeaways. So my number one takeaway for this game was tough win, tough win with young players. And they the 49ers had a lot of youth coming into this game, a lot of second year players, a lot of rookies, and getting playing time. The defensive line, what was that going to look like? Just because there was, but it turned out that they didn't really. They gave them some reps. Michael played pretty much the whole game. Michael Williams, their first round draft pick, played most of the game. Um, but the rest of them, CJ West, who really flashed in camp, really flashed in the preseason, he was a guy that I was expecting to see more of, but he didn't get as much playing time as Michael did. Also, I was waiting to see. There was a couple other guys I was waiting to see. Alfred Collins also didn't get a lot of reps, but they did get some playing time. But we were also excited to see Upton Stout. We were also excited to see Marcus Siegel and what he was going to bring. I know a lot of people were disappointed that Nick Martin was inactive for the game, but because that kid he flashed and then he was out of position in the preseason, but then he flashed, then he was out of position. I think he has a lot. So there's a ton of talent there. It's just going to take some time for him to bake and for him to get into the culture a little bit more, get understand the system where he needs to be. But I will tell you what who looked really good and who wasn't a second year player, who wasn't a rookie, was D Winters. And a lot was said around what was that going to look like, him being next to Fred Warner full time, him taking over for Greenlaw, and would he be able to pick up the side? Because we noticed last year, the minute Greenlaw got out on the field, it was a whole different vibe on this defense. Would he be able to give Fred his 1-2 punch? And the answer was yes, absolutely. D Winters had a really good game. I felt he made a lot of good plays. He was all over the field. Um, I think the sky's the limit for him. And I'll tell you the one thing that he brought that Greenlaw, and I'm not gonna compare him to Greenlaw, but I will say that the one thing that we did not miss with Greenlaw was the penalties. Greenlaw was flying all over D Winters was flying all over the field, but we didn't get any of those roughing penalties and those out of control moments that we sometimes got with Greenlaw. But he was still laying the thumb. Pause. But the so those two looked great. My second takeaway. So first takeaway, tough win, really tough win. It was almost I don't want to say it's a playoff atmosphere for a week one game, but it was almost like a preseason. It was like a preseason for both offenses. Uh, both defenses came to play, and it was a really tough game throughout. Number two takeaway, Moody. Everybody wants him gone, and I'm talking about not just the fans, not just and now the beat writers have gotten in, and nobody understands at this point why he's still on the team. This is why I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again because a lot of people kind of push back, say that I'm negative from time to time. But this is why you don't draft a kicker in the third round, is because I will tell you that, like, if he was not a third round pick, he would have been gone. And some people say, oh, he Kyle's gotten rid of third round picks and second round picks in the past, and so it's not that he's a high pick. I beg to differ because this is the thing. When they got rid of TDP, was anybody expecting them to get rid of TDP? No. In fact, they just figured he would get buried on the depth chart and he would end up just trying again next season, or he would come in like if somebody got hurt. Nobody expected him getting released. Same thing happened to Trey Sermon. Nobody expected him to get cut at all. Same thing happened even with Trey Lance. You want to bring up Trey Lance? Nobody expected him to get traded that quick traded that quickly. I still thought that they would keep him on the team. It was an uncomfortable situation. So I think people expected him to get traded, but it was almost like Kyle had no choice but to trade him at that point. So I don't even count that because it's that was a different type of situation. It was with quarterbacks, you absolutely cannot mess with the chemistry as far as quarterbacks go. But a kicker, and I mean, we've even seen them get rid of Drake. I mean, Drake Jackson just can't get on the field. But when you think about those players and the situation that Moody is in, where it's Moody's just terrible, they have nobody else to pick up the slack for him. And they just keep having to roll him out there every single week, and we've got to watch him. Maybe like us biting our nails and like gritting our teeth, wondering if this guy's gonna hit just an extra point. Kyle does not like it. Comes back to Kyle's ego because if Kyle does not like to be told what to do, we know this about Kyle. If you don't know this, then you haven't been paying attention. Kyle gets annoyed anytime a reporter asks him a question about anybody that's struggling and about what they should do with their players. He hates it. Nobody even asked him questions about TDP before they released him. They just released him. Nobody asked him about Trey Sermon. They just released him. Everybody was surprised that those two got released. Like, but with Moody, we've been like he gets asked the question every single game, and he cannot take it when he feels like you're putting him in a corner and telling him what he has to do. Kyle doesn't like it. So now we're stuck. We're stuck with this guy that's just terrible as a kicker. And now they're not even gonna he's not even gonna admit that they're looking at guys or even talking to guys when we know they've gotta be. I mean, Greg Joseph is still sitting out there. There's a whole bunch of kickers that could come in for the 49ers right now and be better than Moody. When he got hurt last year, they brought in what, Joey Sly, and there was another guy, Carlson, and they did fine. They did fine. Moody can't even get the kickoff right. So I would venture to say that I'm hoping that it happens this week, but the guy needs to be gone tomorrow. This is just silliness at this point. They don't lose that much. In fact, I'm gonna look up exactly what they lose by getting rid of him. Um, Jake Moody. So if they get rid of him this year, they lose $214,000 in dead cap money. He needs to be off the team tomorrow. It's period, point blank. He needs to be off the team tomorrow. They could bring in anybody off the street and it would be just as good. There's no reason. I heard some people say that, oh, it's because, well, they're afraid of getting rid of him because what if he goes to another team and he's good? Who cares? He's not good for the 49ers. So who cares if he's good for somebody else? We're talking about $214,000. He's not going to be good for the 49ers. And in fact, let's talk about special teams in overall. We brought in Boyer as a special teams coach. He's supposed to be another special teams ace. Our last guy was supposed to be a special teams ace, our last coach. And he ended up stinking. Boyer comes in. We're supposed to get immediate returns off of that. It's not good. The whole game, it looked terrible. The whole game, it looked terrible. So, what is the point? What is the point of I just don't get how the 49ers are that cursed on special teams that we can't figure out that we can't. Now, there's a couple of things that somebody brought up earlier today on Twitter that I thought were interesting aspects of it, just because the 49ers did a bunch of shuffling around, and to keep some guys on the roster, they put some guys that didn't normally play special teams. Now all of a sudden they're on special teams, like Isaac Garendo. Isaac Garendo, not used to playing special teams, He's now on special teams. Uh, the who was the other guy? Robert Beal was inactive, which is weird because he's a special teams guy. And but there was another guy that was playing special teams that doesn't normally play special teams, and I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But they had a couple of guys basically that don't normally play special teams that were playing special teams in this game. So that could be what the overall problem. But Moody is just terrible. Moody needs to go. And I'm not really understanding what that's all about. Like I mean I do because I just think that Kyle's just being stubborn as usual. As usual. So but that's my second takeaway of the game. Third takeaway, Purdy struggled like and I'm going to get into it a little bit later, but he struggled with it just at times in this game for a couple of different reasons. And but yeah, he struggled like the first drive, great. He ran right down the field. I mean, now granted, one of their penalty, they gave us a penalty that kind of let us down the field. But for the most part, Purdy was pretty smooth on that first drive. After that, it was rough. It was tough sledding after that. And then all the way up until the end of the last drive of the game, he got down and then they got in the red zone at the last play of the game, or not last play of the game, but you know what I mean. When he's going for the touchdown, it's fourth down. They have to go for it. They have to go for it because they weren't going to get another chance at it. So that's how I felt about it. But I wasn't sure if Kyle was going to go for it or not. But thank God. But obviously, he didn't trust Moody at that point. I mean, I think that's the only thing that we can think at that point. So Kyle ends up going for it. Purdy's scrambling around looking for a guy, and then decides just to throw it up and give his guy a chance in the end zone. Tonjes just comes out of nowhere, right over the top of Reek Woolen, and gets the touchdown for the lead. And but and just kind of saved Purdy. Now, when I say saved Purdy, it's football. It's football. There's all kinds of plays that are made throughout games, throughout history of football that things happen. You get clutch plays sometimes, and does that mean it's any less of a completion for Purdy? No, it doesn't. So I'm going to say he came through. He came through with the win. And I'm going to give him his credit for that, where I do. But you also got to give him credit for those two awful interceptions that he had earlier in the game. So, and we're going to get into those later. But my fourth takeaway from this game, CMC was supposed to unlock this offense. I didn't see an unlocked offense. Now, he gave Purdy some more outlets. I mean, they used him a ton. But I mean, as much as they used him, they barely got over the hump and they almost didn't make it. So, but there was no unlocking of the offense. I heard all last year, oh, well, we don't have CMC. And if CMC is the straw that stirs the drink, and they got to have him to unlock the offense, it didn't unlock the offense. And once again, we talked all off season about CMC needs to kind of like get his touches kind of managed. He needs to have his touches managed, maybe bring down the touches, get mix in Brian. They went out and got Brian Robinson. We're thinking, okay, well, here you go. But instead of Brian Robinson just mixing into their carries, then it turned out that they ran the ball. How many times they run the ball? I think it was like 36 times. 36 times they ran the ball. They just ran the ball more, which on any given time I would applaud Kyle. Like thank you for running the ball, because too many times last year he went away from running the ball, and this is the entirely the type of game where running the ball matters, and where running the ball is it's a rough tight game division game. They needed to control the clock, run the ball, be physical. And that's what I love to see. I love seeing this team try to get back to the physicality that was their original identity, was running the ball, toughness, tough defense. It looked like they were blatantly trying to go back to that. I felt like having Salah on the sideline just kind of exemplified that. I thought it was uh, what I didn't like is that you would think CMC might get 15 carries, uh, like 3 or 4 catches. No, he got 22 carries, 9 catches. I mean, he got 31 touches. And so we're not managing his touches at all. And it's the first game of the season. They're going to have to manage his touches. He took a lot of hits in this game. And granted, he's a running back. But he's up there in age at this point. You cannot, Kyle absolutely cannot run him into the ground. Now, he did give Brian Robinson 9 carries and a catch. Okay, I would like to see, and maybe that was because Brian Robinson just got there. He still looked like he didn't have the offense all the way. The timing was not there. He wasn't uh, hitting holes when he should be. And I thought that, and he wasn't. You could see he wasn't really decisive about the holes that he was running through. So, excuse me, but at the same time, thank you, Kyle, for because those carries guaranteed would have been Purdy or would have been CMC's in the past. And also, I like the fact that they didn't come out of those run looks just because the other team was showing bare fronts and like that kind of stuff. You have to run the ball anyway. You got to run the ball anyway. You've got to make them respect it. Because it did open the 49ers. The reality is the 49ers don't have a lot in the receiving game. Uh, and it was really evident as the game progressed. But yeah, long story short, CMC did not unlock this offense, and it looked like we were right back to where we were with driving him and running him into the ground. He did look healthy, which I did like. He had a lot of burst, a lot of toughness. It was typical CMC. I didn't see any drop off. He only had like 3.2 yards a carry, but I think that was more of an indictment of the running lanes the line gave him rather than his actual running ability. So, um, but the fifth and last main point of the main takeaway from the game was Salah. Robert Salah is worth every single penny, and he is. There was such a vibe switch, and it was so undeniable that you saw it right away. Now, the first drive, I think it was their second drive that they drove right down the field, like they just kind of ran it down our throat. Pause, but it was, but still, it was. They were fighting, and you could see it as the game went on. They shut the run down. They only ran the ball for 84 total yards. They had 230 total yards for the day. Great. I think it was a great defensive performance. And he had multiple young guys out there. Marcus Siegel was out there. Upton Stout was out there. You had D Winters. It was really a new starter. Like, I mean, he did start games last year, but he was really like the solidified partner of Fred Warner now. Then you had Demo is like it was a leader out there. And all of a sudden our favorite defensive lineman, Nick Bosa, was just wreaking havoc. And Salah was finding ways to move him around the formation and get him to different ways to pressure the quarterback, basically. But he was everywhere. I think he played a phenomenal game, but it was not about Bosa per se as much as it was they were obviously Salah was obviously trying to put him in different spots and different angles so that he could get more. The defense couldn't get a beat on where he was going to be and just automatically chip and do all those other things to take him out of the game, he had been had been happening in the past, where our past couple of defensive coordinators just left him over there, and it was just a race to the quarterback every single time. There was no stunts, there was no anything. Salah mixed up his blitzes great, except for I think there was one. I think that he it was terrible timing for a blitz, but for the most part, Salah was worth every penny because he just the way that team looked, the way that team looked, they were what's the word for it? Inspired. It was inspired play. Uh, Marcus Siegel was a tackling machine from the safety spot. Pinnock, I didn't really even notice him for a majority of the game. But I mean, that's probably a good thing. Uh, the defensive line struggled in those first couple of drives, but after that, they locked in, shut down the run game, and they put pressure on Darnold. They were coming from all different directions against Darnold. I felt like Fred played inspired ball. Fred looked like the Fred Warner of old. And when you've got D Winters next to him, I think D Winters was really a great Robin to his Batman. And then you've got and then who was the other guy that really impressed me? Renardo Green made that phenomenal play against Jackson. Yeah, it was Njigba, Jackson and Jigba. Where he caught the ball and Renardo just ripped it out of his hands on the ground to break it up. But that was a phenomenal play, and you saw Salah getting hyped just like the old days on the sidelines. It gave us all the feels. It gave us all the feels, and it was a great feeling having him back on the sideline. And who knows, we might have Mike McDaniel with us pretty soon, but that's a whole nother story. Um, so okay. I do want to bring up those are my five main takeaways. Let's just say that first. And but that doesn't even speak to the entirety of the game. There were just so many little nuances of this that we had been waiting for answers, and I think we got quite a bit of answers, but the whole picture still isn't there yet. Um, we still don't really know what this offense is going to look like when we have all of the pieces. We still don't know what the defense is going to look like in a few weeks as these youngsters start getting reps and start getting more experience. There's some people complaining about Michael Williams not really putting any kind of pressure on the quarterback. And but if you paid attention to his tape coming out of college, that's not what he is. And if that's what you expected coming out, then you weren't paying attention. Uh, they they brought him in and Alfred Collins and CJ West to bring some more size and beef to the defensive line. Over the last couple of years, they've been getting pushed around in the run game. They wanted to shore that part up, and I think that they succeeded. I felt like I would be remiss if I didn't mention Kalia Davis. Kalia Davis played a phenomenal game, but Kalia Davis, it's never been about his ability. It's always been about his availability. And he hasn't been able to stay healthy throughout his tenure as a 49er. It was so good to see him make it through the entire game. and make the plays that we all know he is capable of making. Uh, but I felt like this really ignited Nick Bosa most of all, just because he was allowed to do so many things. He looks so happy. He looks like he's playing so free, and so I just can't. There's not enough good things that I can say about Salah and what he's brought to this defense. I think that the best is yet to come. I think for this defense, I think they're going to grow as this season goes on. And but when it comes down to this team is going to be a work in progress, and that's why John, that's why Kyle said that this is kind of a rebuilding year, and that there's really no expectations because they didn't nobody knew what we were going to have. Let's just be real. We're just happy that we got this victory. Let's take them one at a time. We got New Orleans next week, and let's see what we can do there. But what the key is that was a divisional game. And the one thing that, because I haven't seen you guys and I haven't had a chance to talk about our division, but our division, it's going to be tight. I think that the West is a very underrated division. I think that the Seahawks were a. I think it's going to turn out as they're going to grow just like we're going to grow, like just like the 49ers are going to grow. They've got a lot of young pieces. They've got a really good coach. I feel like in McDonald, and he is. Uh, I think he's got. They've already got a really. I think they have a really good defense. That defensive front of theirs, really good, really good. I think that they have some question marks in the secondary, but I think that as they get more in tune and they get more, and as McDonald gets more pieces over the next year, I think that that to really kind of fit his what he wants to do on defense, that's going to be a team to be reckoned with. Offensively, they've got a lot of work to do. I don't. I think that their offensive line was really good. I think that their offensive line was solid, but I do not think that. I think that their running back room isn't as good as advertised. I think that they're. I think that they need some help at wide receiver. And I mean, and I don't think, and obviously, I don't think Sam Darnold is the answer there. I mean, it's going to take some time for him to really get with, I mean, he just got there. And they've got a new offensive coordinator, so everybody's kind of learning the system. And I do think that they have some pieces in there that don't necessarily fit what they want to do. But still, I still think that they're a team that's going to be on the rise. You got the Rams um, who got a win over the weekend and probably should have lost that game, but they pulled out a win in true Sean McVay fashion. Uh, and that's another team that probably should be on the downturn, but McVay is going to have those guys playing hard every single game, and that's always going to be a tough out. They're always going to be in the mix. So you can't count them out. Then you've got the Arizona Cardinals who are on the come up who started fast in the game that they had over the weekend. They ended up eking out the win against the Saints, but they are they are a team that I feel like is going to be a tough out for a lot of teams. They're not. I don't see them necessarily making the playoffs, but I do see them ruining a lot of teams' season by just getting those key loss, by getting some key wins. And I just hope it's not the 49ers. But I think that this division is going to be very competitive, and I think that might behoove the Niners by keeping them engaged throughout this whole entire season. It's going to be a fight. They're going to be learning on the fly, which is a whole other story that we'll talk on another podcast about. But it's going to be a fight all the way to the end. It's going to be a really good knockout dragout. But I do want to bring up the some of the injuries that came up. Jawan Jennings, it looks like they're going to do a CT scan on his. I guess his MRI came back clean, but they're going to do a CT scan on his shoulder, probably tomorrow, to find out if there's get a little bit deeper of a look. But Kyle I guess, made a comment today saying that there's a chance he might play on this Sunday. So who knows? We'll see. Uh, CMC, I think, is going to be on that injury report, but he's probably going to be playing next week. Unfortunately, George Kittle, 3.5 to 5 weeks. 3 to 5 weeks. Pulled his hamstring, and as we all know, hamstring injuries linger. It's probably going to be longer than the 5 weeks. I think people need to get used to it now. Now, big up to Luke Farrell and Tonjes. They're probably going to have to go pick up somebody to because they released Braden Willis, and I mean, he wasn't worth any. He was. I've been saying that he wasn't. I didn't see it the entire time. He should have been gone last year. So they're going to probably pick up somebody on off the street to kind of round out that tight end room. And but after this last game, I've got a lot of confidence in Jake Tunges and Luke Farrell. They played really well. Like both of them made pretty decent catches. They both blocked pretty good, I thought. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And then we've got who else was injured in that game? I think that's really all of the injuries. I think that was all the injuries. Let me see. Oh, Brock Purdy had a toe and a shoulder injury, and I highly doubt it's enough to keep him out of the next game. But we'll keep an eye on that. Keep you posted on that. That would be catastrophic. Uh, apparently, Ben Barch was dinged up as well, but I don't think it's serious because nobody's really reporting that it was serious. Um, yeah, I think that's all of those. But let's talk a little bit about the title of this podcast. I'd named this podcast Genius. And last week, there was a lot of talk about how genius Kyle was and about how he's an offensive genius and how people need to leave Kyle alone and they can't imagine why people would think that Kyle needs to go and like all this other stuff. And I understand. I understand because we've had reasonable success. We've gotten to 2 Super Bowls, gotten to multiple NFC championship games. Why would you want to rock the boat? But I just pause on the genius label. And I asked a question on Twitter. I want to say it was over a week ago. I asked a question. Would you rather have the genius label taken away from Kyle, him just be less of a genius and and take some and make some obvious play calls and have them take away the label of genius and him win a Super Bowl? Or would you rather things keep going status quo and him being labeled a genius, but we don't get to the Super Bowl. But we have every single excuse as to why he doesn't make it there. Like I make it over the hump and gets the Super Bowl. And I'm not blaming Kyle for every Super Bowl loss, right? Uh, the first one, I, it's hard not to, I would say. And but the second one, I don't really blame Kyle because there was just too much across the board it was a perfect storm of just ineptitude all the way down from special teams, CMC fumbling, muffed punts, like the missed extra points. Like there was just so much that happened to lose them that game that I can't really blame Kyle. Uh, but but he didn't have him ready to play in that game. Other than that, but I really pause on calling him a genius. I just do, just because he's a guy that over the years have we've given him so much credit for the offense and for him drawing up these genius level plays, but then he's so enamored with his own scheme that he thinks that he doesn't need the right player. He doesn't need certain players to even. He thinks he can get by with, and he said it himself. He thinks that he doesn't need great offensive linemen. He just needs guys to be in the right places at the right time. These are his words, not mine. This isn't an observation of mine. This is what he said. So, in what world in what world does that is that what coach is ever going to say he doesn't need good offensive line? I don't think people understand the amount of ego that has to take to think that you can just put moving pylons out there and think that that is going to be enough to get you over the hump against good and great teams and great defenses by having an offensive front that is just moving pylons. I That is a tremendous ego, and that you would rather just keep get stocking up pieces. But where are your pieces now? Now you don't have either. Now you don't have either. Debo's gone. Ayuk is on the pup. Ricky Pearsall, who had a pretty okay game. I think people are like giving him a little bit more credit than. I mean, he had 4 catches. He had 4 catches. And one of those interceptions, he got strapped. I mean, they were running his route for him. And there was a few, like, let's put it this way: he made a couple of catches in the beginning of the game. We didn't see him again. We didn't see him again until what, the third quarter. So it's, I think that's a work in progress. I think it's a work in progress, and I think that's fair to say. But there's just not a lot of weapons on the field right now. And then the offensive line, I think they did a really good job passing, like in pass protection. I think pass protection. I think that they did a. It was a pretty good job. But the run blocking was there was no hole. There was no holes to go through. CMC was trying to jump over and make holes where there weren't any. Ryan Robinson, but there was no hole. There was no hole for him to run through. I just don't. The run blocking and then Trent. I mean, love Trent to death, but it looks like it's almost that time. And I think he's. I still think he's a really good left tackle. I think he's still going to be a really good left tackle, but he gave up more pressures than everybody else combined. And he was already looking dinged up. We know that it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to miss 2 to 3 games a season. That happens every single season. There's no way to get around that. But at the same time, this team has just decided that they're not going to draft. They're not going to draft in or create a pipeline for eventual replacement of any of these guys. There's no pipeline for the offensive line. The past 2 to 3 seasons, they've just been picking up random pieces. A couple of them drafted. You got your Connor Colesby and your what's it called? Drew. can't even think of his name right now. But the guy that they say is going to be the eventual center. But you've got a couple of guys that might be, but for the most part, there's no pipeline. There is no tackle pipeline. We have Spencer Burford as our swing tackle who played guard last year and didn't really look good at tackle, which I applauded them for even putting him out there because we had been asking for them to at least try him out there, but it didn't really look great. And it's going to probably take him time to get used to that position. It's not like you can just throw him in the fire and just expect him to be great. So that's going to take time, but there's really no pipeline. So what happens today? They signed Colton. They re-signed Colton McKivitz. They give him an extension, 3 years, 45 million. I believe it was 28 million guaranteed. Oh, Steve O in the building. I want to say what's up to my guys. Steve O, it's been a long time, bro. Even though you're trying to troll, but pretty okay. 100 yards. How often does Ayuk or Debo do that? Look, in the past, come on, they've done that. Like, but he got 4 catches. He got 4 catches, and I'm not saying that he did nothing, but he made a couple of catches at the beginning of the game, and then he made a couple of catches at the end of the game. There was a whole bunch of game in between there that he didn't touch the ball at all. So, and we saw the one pick where the corner ran the route for him, and Purdy threw the ball anyway. So it is what it is. Gammon, my guy, what's going on, brother? Appreciate you coming through. O-line is cooked. Pass block wise, they were not bad. They were not bad. But run blocking, it's terrible. It's terrible. But I want to go back to what I was just talking about with as far as Colton McKivitz getting his new extension, 3 years, 45 million. I believe he got 28 million guaranteed. I'm sure we're going to see the rest of the numbers and the funny money later. But 15 million a year, that's not bad. That's not a bad deal. And I'm sure there's going to be outs in the contract. It's probably like more of a 2 year deal, I would think. But here's the thing: you got Colton McKivitz got paid because he was good enough, and because the 49ers don't have a pipeline. Because Trent Williams is what 37 years old. How old is Trent Williams? He's 37, about to be 38. He might be like and they have nobody in the pipeline for him. So they're and Colton McKivitz, when he retires, Colton McKivitz ain't going over to the left side. So they've got to find a left tackle from somewhere, whether it's been drafted or whether it's in free agency or whether they trade for somebody. But that's got to happen. So they had no choice. They had to lock up Colton and pay him. It's good that they got in there early and got it done before the end of the season, because if it ended up being a bidding war, they probably would have overpaid. Because Colton McKivitz is not great. I wouldn't even say he's good. He's good enough. He's good enough to be. He actually didn't look bad. He looked pretty good in pass protection yesterday. But the run blocking has always been his. He cannot run block. Anytime you saw it, anytime they ran to the right side, it was terrible. So it's yeah, it's kind of sad that they put themselves in this position that we've been, and not to say that they should listen to the fans, but fans have been begging them to draft tackles and offensive linemen for the last 3 years. And so far we've gotten Pooney, great pickup. That was a really good pick. Connor Cole, Connor Colby, I think he's going to end up being pretty decent. They found another guy off of They got Connor Colby and then Drew Moss. He's another guy that, like, I mean, he would be. We're thinking that he's eventually going to take over for Brendel, but I mean, Brendel is a problem in itself. He's just getting manhandled up front, and this is the Seattle defense. This isn't even a better team. I think that Seattle does have a really good defensive line, but they're going to face these defensive lines all year long, and Brendel has been a problem since really before last year. So it's it's baffling. It's baffling that we're still talking about it. They still didn't have Drew Moss. They lucked into him because he was an undrafted. I believe he was an undrafted free agent. So they just lucked up into him. But that's quite frequently how they find guys. They just kind of get them later rounds, or they luck up into a player that just ends up being good. And it's but Drew Moss, I think, is going to be okay. Connor Cole will be okay, but they have nothing at tackle. Like they have Spencer Burford and Pleasant, I believe is his last name. Yeah, Austin Pleasance. That's it. And neither one of those guys is good or even close to good. So at what point this offensive line is just going to be it's going to end up being a problem when we're trying to keep CMC clean. That's what I think about is because they're okay for right now and they're keeping Purdy clean for the most part, but I worry about CMC. Um, I worry about our running back room as a whole because I just don't think that this offensive line is going to open up holes for them, and then you've got yeah, it's just it's not a good look. I'll just be just be 100% honest with you. Um, but we got through this game. We got through this game. What else do they have to say? And Steve-O thinks that they're going to trade. They're going to trade for it again. I mean, I can't argue that. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, I don't know who they're going to trade for. Uh, oh, that was the other guy. I just thought about it right now. The other guy that was on playing special teams that never plays special teams is our safety, Jair Brown. Jair Brown did not used to play in, and he made a mistake. But yeah, O line is going to be an issue as far as the running game goes. They're going to be okay pass protection. It seems like as long as everybody can stay healthy. If Trent goes down, pause, it's going to be bad. And look at and Steve-O said fans complained 3 years for CB before that. Look at our CBs now. Well, yeah, look at them now. But we had problems with them. We even had problems with them last year at times because guys were hurt. And like it shouldn't take people complaining. You should not be waiting. That's just bad roster management. To honestly, it's just bad roster management that you don't take the obvious picks, and you're not taking. And I don't want to get too try to sound too holier than thou as far as like what the 49ers have had a lot of success, and they found ways to kind of get around their misfortunes, I should say. They mess up on the Trey Lance pick. They find Purdy. Uh, they quite frequently they'll have one really bad season and they come up with a whole new group of good players. Last year we were really like all the rookies that we had that we thought we had just had this great rookie class. I kind of questioned were they really that good because we still only got 6 wins. But were they really that good, or were they just flashed? But this year, some of them are Pooty looking really good still. Bernardo Green made a great play, and for the most part, for most of the game, looked really good. Um, and then you got multiple guys that were that from this draft class look like they're going to be players. Upton Stout looks like a player. I want to speak out about Upton Stout because I heard some people complaining today on Twitter about he was getting cooked or whatever by who's the old Rams guy, um, their slot receiver. Anyway, he got cooked on one play, which I tweeted at the time was a really bad tug of the guy's arm because if he hadn't tugged the ball was uncatchable, and he ended up getting a penalty, and they ended up getting a touchdown off of it. But I felt like he was learning as the game was going on. He played Cooper Cup really tight throughout most of the game. He made another play where he batted away a ball later on in the game. I think Upton Stout is going to be really good, and he's going to get better and better as the season goes on. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. His size still kind of worries me. But then you've got Siegel, who is just all over the place. Is he always in the right place? No. I'm sure that I'm going to watch the tape later on this week, and I'm going to see him out of position a bunch of times. But it wasn't so glaring that it was really causing any coverage breaks, coverage busts. I mean, and so Siegel looks like he's going to be really good. I think Nick Martin is going to be a really good pick. Uh, I think Connor Colby, even though he's a late rounder, I think he's going to end up being a solid, at least backup at the guard position, and could be a future starter in Kyle's offense. Um, there's who else did they get? I think Mikael Williams is going to be okay. I think CJ is going to be CJ West is going to be really nice. I think Mikael's going to be really good. Give him a year. And I tweeted this out today, and I think people took it the wrong way. But what we saw on tape, because somebody uh, tweeted out a bunch of his film saying that what do we think of this film from him, and it was the same film as he had in college. He's really good against the run. He just doesn't have a really good pass rush plan. Doesn't really have any pass rush moves. And in the NFL, it's gonna be really hard for you to get pressure like doing that. But I think that he's going to end up being okay. It's probably going to take him, as raw as he is at pass rushing. It's probably going to take him a year to get any kind of viable set of pass rush moves. I think that Bosa has shown that he's willing to work with all the guys, and I know Alfred Collins has been working with him, but I want to see Mikael Williams in there with him. I need him to get something. Uh, so, oh yeah, I forgot about Mustafa, but we're not gonna see him till week 6. So, but yeah, it was a really good game. Like I felt like there's so many things that we could talk about this first game. Next game they've got up against New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. I know that we all think New Orleans Saints it's gonna be an easy game. It should be an easy game. Let me let everybody in on something. There are no easy games this year for the 49ers. None. And there was one little note that I put on the bottom of my notes that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned because I don't think that people are even noticing this across the league. But the entire Shanahan tree is struggling on offense. The entire Shanahan tree. And I'm not talking about Sean McVay because I feel like he's kind of separate from all of it. And his tree is well, even his tree isn't really doing phenomenal. Like, but they're but the Kubiaks and the Mike McDaniels and Kyle they're struggling to get offense. They're struggling to score points. And I brought this up in a space today in on Twitter. I still call it Twitter. I don't care. I know it's X, but whatever. Uh, I mentioned it today that I feel I don't want to say that the league has completely figured them out. I'm still waiting a couple of more games. I want to see. I want to see because I've been saying this since last year. Uh, Kyle, like we saw them get yards, but then when they get into the red zone, there's no scoring. And the same thing happened this in game 1 for the 49ers. They were moving down the field and then they hit the red zone and it's just like they cannot get in the end zone. So we'll be really watching and like watching to see if that trend continues. It's yeah, it's I feel like teams are playing bend but don't break. Let them get down the field. Just don't give up the big play. And then when they get down there, they've got nobody really that can like make a play, or that's not the way those plays work. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll watch. I'm gonna keep paying attention to that. I'm gonna keep you guys updated. But yeah, the 49ers cannot overlook anybody. The 49ers cannot overlook anybody, and it's gonna be a long season. Everybody is going to be on pins and needles all season long. I don't think that there's any team that the 49ers can look past. Every game is going to be a fight, and the team is going to have to get better in every game and improve in every game just a little bit just to be in these games because all these other teams are going to be getting a little bit better and as they get along so it's we really just gotta never be overconfident because there's really nothing to be overconfident about. I love my 49ers. We're in a transition spot right now, but we're celebrating this first win. We're looking on to the Saints. The Saints are they just came off of their loss to Arizona, and they have Spencer Rattler, a quarterback that he's not really. I don't see him as really a threat, but they do have weapons. They still have a 30-year-old Kamara that was still making plays. They have really two at least good wide receivers, and they have a pretty decent tight end in Juwan Johnson. But you got Chris Olave, you got Shaheed. I think that they've got some weapons. Now, what? How does that look against the 49? How does this off 49er offense look against this defense? I really got to look more into the New Orleans defense. I know Cameron Jordan is still playing. I don't understand how that's still going on, but I'm going to look at their defense over the weekend. Kind of keep you guys up to date on Twitter as to what I'm finding about that. Uh, I'll be seeing you guys every Monday. I'm kind of just dialing it back to Mondays, and I'll be there for you guys right after those Mondays after games. And if it's on a Monday, it'll probably if like, they have a game on a Monday night, I'll probably do my show on a Tuesday. But man, so good to be back. So good to see everybody. Thank you, Stevo and Gammon, for coming through and comment and giving the comments. But yeah, I'm really glad to be back, and this was an outlet that like I really missed doing. So and just got to say, make sure you get the video like, make sure that you give it a subscribe, make sure that you hit the bell so you get the notifications for when I go live. And and yeah, I think I'm on Facebook, I'm on I'm on YouTube, and I am on Twitch. So anywhere where you can tune in, make sure that you tune in. It's and tell a friend so we can be friends. Yeah, I miss doing the show. I will see you guys next Monday. And I got anything else? No. Go Niners. You guys have a good night. I will see you guys on Twitter.